All right, when you're managing cables, one of the first calls you have to make is also one of the most important. Are you going with a ladder tray or a perforated tray? Today, we're going to dig into how the basic design of these two systems ends up dictating pretty much everything else, from how much weight they can hold to how easy they are to install.
So looking at them, you might think they're just metal trays, right? But does the actual design, rungs versus a bunch of holes, does that really matter? Oh, you better believe it does. And getting why it matters is absolutely key to a successful project. Really, the whole choice boils down to just three things. First, load capacity. How much weight can it actually handle? Second, airflow. How well do your cables stay cool? And finally, the installation environment itself. These three factors are going to be our guideposts for this entire conversation.
Okay, so let's jump right in and deconstruct our first contender, the ladder tray. To really get a grip on its performance, we got to look at how it's put together. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You've got two strong side rails running the length of it, and they're connected by these cross members, or rungs, just like a ladder you'd climb. And that super simple construction, that's where all its unique strengths come from. And here's the secret sauce. The real key to the ladder tray's muscle is what engineers call an I-beam-like geometry. Think about a steel I-beam in a skyscraper. The side rails of the tray work the same way, carrying the main bending force across the entire span. It's an incredibly efficient design that gives you a massive strength-to-weight ratio.
But even with that design, you've got choices. The big one is rung spacing. If you go with a tighter 150 millimeter spacing, you get fantastic support for your cables. But you could also double that to 300 millimeters to save on weight and material. Just be aware, and this is critical, that wider spacing can increase how much your cables sag in the middle by a factor of 4 under the exact same load. It's a classic engineering trade-off you need to think about.
All right, let's switch gears and look at the other side of the aisle. The perforated tray is built on a totally different philosophy. So unlike the wide open design of a ladder tray, a perforated tray has a continuous base. It's basically a solid sheet of metal that's had a pattern of holes punched into it, all held together by two side rails. That continuous surface is its defining feature, and it changes everything.
Now, those holes aren't just for looks. They typically cover about 30 to 50% of the base. And that's a really smart design choice. It cuts down on a significant amount of weight, and just as importantly, it allows for air to circulate around the cables, all while still giving you that solid, continuous support. But here's the big difference, the part you really need to remember. Structurally, this design acts like a flat plate in bending. That's a completely different mechanical principle from the I-beam we saw earlier. And while it's fantastic for providing uniform support, especially for smaller cables, a flat plate just isn't as efficient when it comes to handling heavy loads over long spans. So there you have it, an I-beam versus a flat plate. Now let's look at how that one fundamental difference in structure creates this cascade effect that impacts real-world performance. There's this quote from our source material that just nails it. That difference in structural geometry cascades into every downstream decision. And that is so true. That initial choice you make between ladder and perforated, it's going to ripple through the whole project, affecting how far apart your supports can be, how many brackets you'll need, and even the long-term reliability of your cables. And this brings us to the most dramatic consequence of all, load capacity. Let's look at the numbers. A typical perforated tray is great for lighter loads, maybe somewhere in the 25 to 75 kilograms per meter range. But a ladder tray? With that I-beam structure, it can handle heavy-duty loads all the way up to 200 kilograms per meter. We're talking IEC 61537 Class D. That's a huge difference, and it all comes right back to their basic anatomy. So let's put it all together in a quick side-by-side. For structure, you've got rungs versus a continuous base. When it comes to load class, the ladder tray is the undisputed heavyweight champion, built for heavy-duty applications, while the perforated tray shines with lighter loads. This means ladder trays are your go-to for heavy power cables, and perforated trays are perfect for smaller control or data wires that need that consistent, uniform support. It really is a classic case of different tools for different jobs.
Okay, that's a lot of information. So how do you actually take all this and make the right call for your project? Let's get practical. Here's a quick decision guide for you. If you're dealing with heavy power cables or you want to maximize the spans between your supports, ladder tray is your answer. In fact, we saw one project where switching to a single wide 600mm ladder tray instead of two 300mm runs cut their support bracket needs by 28%. That saved them 22 hours of labor for every 100 meters. That's huge. But on the flip side, if you have lots of small diameter wires that need that full continuous support, the perforated tray is absolutely the way to go.
So let's end on this thought. Your cable tray isn't just some piece of hardware. It's the foundation of your entire cable infrastructure. And just like the foundation of a building, its structure defines the absolute limits of everything you build on top of it. And with procurement lead times for heavy-duty galvanized systems stretching out to 10 or even 14 weeks for projects in 2026, the question you have to ask yourself is, have you chosen the right foundation?